first one, criminal defamation, I must say I find myself torn. I'm one of you in many ways. As a student, I was a freelance journalist. Proud to say I won a Young Journalist Award at the age of 20 without ever being a full-time journalist. I'd published just enough to qualify for consideration for that award. But I really share your profession. My father was in the newspapers, but on the wrong side of the fence. He was in the management side of the Statesman. But I, as a result, ended up imbibing a great deal of newspaper law and newspaper practices, and I wrote extensively from my childhood in pretty much every print publication in India in the English language in the 60s and early 70s. So I feel a certain affinity for the media, and I was instinctively against anything that would curb, for example, your right to take the risk of offending somebody through what could have been considered defamation. But having seen how our media, how irresponsible it can be when it believes it has a license from the ruling party to go after people in the most defamatory way. I mean, I think you know what I'm talking about in my own case. I have been as much as openly accused of murder and assault, acts of which I consider myself incapable. But the fact is that I have been accused of this repeatedly by a malicious television channel, and indeed by an opportunist politician who appears on it, but that's another matter. And this has happened purely because of the impunity that he believes he enjoys from our judicial system. So I have finally sued him for defamation. And quite predictably, as I was warned by well-meaning friends, the case has barely moved an inch in the 2 years since it was filed. And that's the other reason. There is really so little by way of judicial remedy when you are trashed, accused, and falsely maligned with lies. I mean, it's not even false theories, but actually fake facts being invented in order to malign you and broadcast on national television by a channel in this particular case that has enjoyed the status of being #1 in India. And I ask myself, what remedy is there for innocent people against this overweening power available to pro-government media? And the short answer is there is no remedy but the courts. Now, it turns out the courts are not much of a remedy if it takes 2 years for the case to even begin to hear the substance of it. But the truth of the matter, nonetheless, is that in our country, the only resort an innocent citizen has to being maligned and defamed would have to be a law that protects his or her rights. So though I am very much in your camp on most issues, and certainly on the principle of freedom of speech, the line has to be drawn somewhere. Just as, you know, the old American judge's statement applies that, you know, your freedom of speech does not extend to the right to shout fire in a crowded theater. Similarly, I think I would argue that your right to wave your hand stops just short of my nose. You are not going to be able to say that your freedom of speech entitles you to make up false stories in order to malign people you don't like for political or other reasons. And to my mind, that is where the law has to step in. Just as free speech will not allow you to make hate speech, will not allow you to incite violence or start a riot, why should free speech allow you to defame innocent people? And I think that's something that makes me hesitate in endorsing your concern about restrictive laws. I have not seen the text of that particular law, but some sort of defamation law, criminal defamation law, I think is necessary in a country with such irresponsibility, motivated and malicious as it is, has been allowed to flourish as recently as the last few years.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, sadly we come to the end of this morning's first session. Shashi has been an absolute star, so would you give him a huge round of applause?